this is, early indication in terms of housing. San Francisco, this is interesting because this is some indicators at kind of the high end. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. So San Francisco, quote, froth is gone as wealth fades, housing slumps. Now, we're not going to shed any tears here for the tech, multi-millionaires of San Francisco. But they lead this look at the San Francisco housing market by saying a palatial 5-bedroom home built in 1932 with stained glass windows, hand-carved doors, jaw-dropping hillside views of downtown San Francisco hit the market in April for $9.5 million. In June, the owners dropped the price to $7 million. It went up for auction last week, then opening bid of $4.5 million, and no offers emerged. So they slashed the price in half and still didn't get any offers on this multi-million-dollar mansion in San Francisco. Now, why is this happening? Well, you have a number of things. First of all, there's the fact that these tech valuations are way down, market is down. So all of the Silicon Valley types who have so much of their wealth tied up in the market, even they are feeling less like they want to just casually drop a few $1,000,000 in cash on a home. That's one of the biggest things. And then you also have quality of living concerns in San Francisco, massive rise in homelessness, concerns over sort of street crime as well that has taken some of the bloom off the rose in terms of that city. But interestingly, Saagar, San Francisco was actually the only major U.S. city where home prices fell in June year over year. So the tech sector in particular, they were hit the hardest at the beginning of this market crash, and that is really reverberating throughout the Bay Area economy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we saw that from the beginning, and this is just, as we said, tech was the leading indicator on the recession, and tech is going to be the leading indicator, San Francisco also, in terms of the housing market. And if the Federal Reserve continues this, I believe the average mortgage right now is like 6.5%, something around that for a 30-year fixed mortgage. That's astronomically much higher than it was even just 6 months ago or a year ago. So if you consider that we're talking about double the average mortgage payment for a lot of people if they're trying to buy houses. This squeezes the rental market. Already we have a housing problem in San Francisco. Also, we've talked before about housing construction. There's a ton of construction that was coming online. Some of it is going to be stopped, which is actually really bad. You want that housing stock to come online, the new housing stock. Well, if the builders don't feel like they're going to get anything for it, then they're just going to stop building. So we could have a supply crunch, and we could also simultaneously have a rental crunch as well, which is only going to increase higher prices. But I thought the best piece here was that New York Times one. Let's put it up there on the screen about in the unequal economy, the poor facing inflation now and a job loss later.
Yeah.
It just highlights the Fed strategy, which is that right now the poor are far more likely to feel it hard at the gas pump, at the grocery store, electric bills. And as a result, the Federal Reserve says, okay, well, we're going to have to increase unemployment. Well, who are the people who are most precarious for unemployment in order to reduce their consumption? People who are not in career jobs, people who don't have a lot of options, it's more seasonal work, so quote unquote disposable, and I do not mean that in any moral sense of the term. Those are the folks who are going to suffer as a result. So they're both being gouged and most likely to get laid off come increase in rate time. So as you said, I reiterate your plea, which is, look, it's slowing down. It's not like this was going to do anything to solve gas inflation at all.
Right.
Same with food, as you admitted, as Jerome Powell admitted.
Yeah, right.
So lay off the poor for right now.
Yeah, and there's another problem in here, not only with the way that the poor will be hit the hardest, they're already the ones who are struggling just to make it work month to month, be able to afford their medicine, food, rent, or mortgage payments. But in addition, because there is so much vast inequality in the economy, so much of the wealth and the spending is at the top. So if the top has all this, excess wealth and they're not paring back at all, then it makes it harder to get inflation under control without the Federal Reserve feeling like they've got to, hike joblessness and, increase unemployment, which is a horrific direction to go in. Just to give you, they have some nice color in this article. I encourage you to read it. They talk to real people about what their lives were actually like. They interview a woman named Teresa Clark. They describe her as a retiree in Connecticut. She says the rising cost of living means not buying goldfish crackers for her disabled daughter because a carton costs $11.99 at her local Stop and Shop. It means showering at the YMCA, to save on her hot water bill. It means watching her bank account dwindle to $50 because as someone on a fixed income who's never made much money to start with, there aren't many other places she can trim her spending as prices rise. She says there is nothing to cut back on. She already cut out the goldfish crackers. Then they interview a guy named David Schoenfeld, who made about $250,000 in retirement income and consulting fees last year, has about $5 million in savings socked away. He hasn't pared back his spending at all. He just returned from a vacation in Greece with his daughter and 2 of his grandchildren. And the way they phrase it is that divergence poses a challenge for the Fed, which is hoping that higher interest rates will slow consumer spending and ease pressure on prices across the economy. But already there are signs that poorer families are cutting back. But if richer families don't pull back as much, if they keep going on vacations, dining out, buying new cars and second homes, many prices could keep rising. The Fed might need to raise interest rates even more to bring inflation under control, and that could cause a sharper slowdown. And really, to your point, the real problem here is that the Fed has no power over the things that are the key drivers of inflation anyway.
Yeah, they have no power over any of this, and it just makes people extraordinarily vulnerable, really, to everything. So I think that people should watch out, and I'm hoping that this is getting read in the correct way. And just to highlight some of the signs of precarity, I found the story is very disturbing. Let's put this up there, which is that the workers at the second largest aluminum mill in the United States, which accounts for 20% of U.S. supply, learned that they were losing their jobs because the plant cannot afford an electricity tab that has tripled in a matter of months. So you are going to have these workers pay the price for high energy prices. Then if the Fed pushes us further and they make unemployment even higher, it's not like these guys are going to be able to get rehired. And it's also not like energy has anything to do with any of this anyway. So you'll have high energy prices and you'll have high unemployment. And these guys are getting completely screwed. Also, last time I checked, aluminum, we probably need it as a society. So.
Not to mention, when you shut down these industrial concerns, it's not like, oh, you can just flip the switch.
You don't just turn it back on.
They talk about how it'll actually take months to close down this aluminum mill because you have to bleed out all of the molten metal so that it doesn't just like freeze up into a giant brick. And then the process of bringing it back online, if they ever do, similarly takes months and months and months to be able to get it up to speed again. So when you lose these sorts of manufacturing concerns, it's very unlikely that you ultimately get them back. And of course, that's a big problem for the economy as a whole.
Yep, that's right.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.